Steve, just in a passing comment before the meeting starts, the drum circles, I'm going to come early, and if you need help, let me know. I mean, I'll chip in and do whatever you need to do.
I'll probably get there at 12, and Barbara likes a lot of time to set up. And we'll be putting the chairs in a circle, and she wants to get her drums just right. And the sound, of course, that takes a while.
Cool. Okay. So anytime after 12.
We'll be there. Yeah.
Okay, we're live.
Good evening. This is May 3rd, 2022, and is the regular Park Acquisition Corporation's monthly board meeting. I'd like to welcome you all and introduce you to the other members of the board, starting with our Vice President, John Hanson.
Yes, I'm John Hanson, Vice President, and also the Standing Committee for MVest Chair, and I'm on a couple of other committees here for PAC as well.
Carol Joy.
I'm Carol Joy Harris, Secretary of the PAC Board, and also on the MVest Steering Committee.
Vicky.
Hi, I have the position of at-large on the PAC Board. I am associated with MVest. I'm sorry, there's a feedback, double feedback, but I'll just keep going. I'm also a block captain with MVest.
We can't hear that, Vicky. You sound good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I keep hearing it over and over.
And Steve.
Hi, I am Steve Ploker. I am the PAC Treasurer. I am the Finance Committee Chairman, and I am a practicing CPA. I've been doing that for almost 40 years.
Very good. Thank you. I also make mention to the fact that this is being live broadcast on Comcast Cable Channel 26, as well as being recorded, and hopefully will be available on YouTube. I'd like at this point to call for approval of the final agenda.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, John.
Yes, right at the very bottom for the determination of the next PAC board meeting. I don't know if this is a time to discuss that. We can discuss it later on too, but I'd like to advance that a half hour to 12:30.
Is that going to be enough time, John, do you think?
The evacuation exercise starts at 10:30. And so there might be a few people left in the, it depends on where we want the meeting, really. If the meeting is going to be in the fireside room, it's probably plenty of time. If we're having that, which I would recommend, because we can set that all up beforehand.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Should 12:30 be good enough, or 1 o'clock better?
So, so John, were you amending or changing the agenda? Is your motion to?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I would move to amend the agenda by changing the date for the next meeting from 12 to 12:30.
Starting time.
And that I still move to approve it with that amendment.
And then Steve seconding it, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing to discuss is, are we going to have the June meeting at that point, or are we going to have it on the following Tuesday? And the annual meeting will also be inclusive of the basically the board's meeting.
Can we discuss that when we get there on the agenda and
At the end.
deal with this now?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, call for approval. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of moving the next annual meeting to on the June 4th to 12:30. All in favor? 5-0. Okay, moving on. for public comment for issues not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute limit for all comments throughout the meeting. And is there anyone who would like to have anything to say?
Can I say something first? I want to
Sure.
remind residents that public comment is simply a time to say your piece. You don't get to engage us in a conversation about your issue. If you want to do that, you have to talk to one of us during the month and convince us to get your issue onto the agenda. So this is just your time to make any comments only.
Thank you, Steve. Well said. Any other public comment?
Ellen Jane's hand is up.
Okay, Ellen, you unmute yourself.
Thank you. I wanted to report on, I brought it up at the MBES meeting, and then I believe it was suggested as a safety measure to bring it up at the PAC about traffic calming, that I had seen something on Nextdoor with traffic calming solutions in Hamilton. I've been in contact with the city engineer, who's only part-time. He works 1 day a week on Novato stuff, but not necessarily in Nevada. But we had a very good conversation. I gave him Matt's information, and he said that he never heard of Marin Valley. So he will drive through and make his recommendations of what might be possible. Matt has not heard from him as of today. And I spoke with him last Tuesday.
Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome. And then I was not aware, I thought there was a rule about there's no parking on our streets, but I guess that's one of those those rules that it's not really a rule because it's not enforced. And I did ask an officer outside of here one time, and he said that if there's no signage, they don't enforce it, because he doesn't know that this is a city park or anything, but he just said no. There's no parking signs. So that's one of those rules that isn't really a rule. And then there's street signs that are constantly obscured by foliage. I guess I'll just email Matt about that. Matt's not on the call today. Is he not going to be here? Oh, I guess that's engaging to answer me. Okay, never mind. I'll just email Matt. Whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. So moving on to the consent calendar. We have no issue on the consent calendar. So we will move on to reports.
Excuse me. I would like to say something about that. Usually the consent calendar consists of approving or not the minutes of the previous meeting. We have not received the minutes yet of the previous meeting. So if anyone is concerned or wants to know exactly what happened, they can watch the video of that on our website. But we're still awaiting those minutes and have been promised them soon. So that's why they're not there. Someone had asked.
Good, thank you. Okay. We'll just move on to, I have an email from Matt. If you give me a second, I can pull it up. He's not able to attend this meeting tonight, but he did send me an email with his report.
Oh.
And
Is that number 1 under D?
Yes.
exactly. So Matt, send me an email and I'll read it off to you. The ADA plan is ongoing for the clubhouse area. And John Hanson and I will have something to say about that a little bit later. Bids are being scheduled for the repair and replacement of the roof and perhaps a inclusion of solar panels on the roof. as well as possibilities of creating a microgrid for the clubhouse to isolate it off of PG&E's infrastructure, so that in the event of a real emergency, we'll be able to be self-sufficient. We're also looking at a solar array which would provide 12 kW, which would give us enough electricity actually to run the park. So we are investigating the solar issues at this point, and we'll report, or he'll report later on, how this is working out. Next of all is that the tree work on the defensible space, the downed trees and the limbs that needed to be laddered up along the ridge line are scheduled for work. And we've talked to him about it. John Hanson and I have talked about it, and we can also repair, or we can talk about it later as well. Next of all is the asphalt repair on the city streets here around Marin Valley, and that work should be happening in the next month. And another very important service project that is going on is the cleaning and the servicing of all the park's transformers. As you probably know, the electricity comes in high voltage, and it then has to be stepped down. And there's a series of 9 transformers around the park. And we need to maintain those in order not to have any outages during times when there are stress on the system. If you recall, we had an outage several years ago where the electricity was turned off and then turned on, and it actually caused the default of a transformer that then took a month to repair. So that is getting ahead of the game here and repairing all those transformers so that won't happen again in the future. So just want to pull up his water report to give you an idea of what we've been doing. So our usage for the past month in March was 34,000 gallons. And the previous March in 2021, it was 39,000. So it's 5,000 less gallons. So it's nearly, well, it is more than 10%. It's about 11, 12% less. So we're doing a pretty good job of watching our water usage here. Any comments on that?
And maybe stopping some leaks.
Yes, I have a comment. That's the exact same numbers that he gave last month. So maybe it's just coincidental. It was 39 versus 34. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, it's accordingly, I'm looking at the figures and they are March figures. So,
Oh, that's March. Yes, because it's a 2-month cycle, I guess.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
okay, no other question. We'll move on to Steve's report.
Interesting, Ellen Jane just said that, because that's what I want to start out with, a little bit of explanation for people that are new or don't know a lot about our financial situation. For starters, I am not the accountant for MVMCC. That task is done by our management company. They have a bookkeeper that posts the financial entries all during the month and then prepares our financial statements. I merely review them after we get them and then give you all my comments. Another issue is our fiscal year actually starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th. So it's not a calendar year, it's a fiscal year. And at this moment, after the end of April, we are 10 months through our fiscal year, which will end June 30th. Last point, like Ellen Jane just said, my reports are always 2 months back because April just ended, but like most government entities and businesses, it's too soon to have the financial reports for April. In the old days, we don't even have the bank statement yet. Well, nowadays you get the bank statement on the internet the next day, but it takes a while to do all the adjustments and review the payables and receivables and such. So still, it takes a few weeks to process it. And when our PAC meeting is early in the month, the best we can do is make financial reports at this moment for March, the second month back. And that's always going to be the case. In May, I report on March. In June, I will report on April. Okay, having said that, the PAC treasurer's, our PAC petty cash bank account is still the same as before. We haven't spent anything in quite a few months. Our balance is $2,725. PAC also has a budget line item in the MVMCC budget. Our budget is $4,000 a year. And through the end of March, we had spent $2,224. That's 9 months, 3/4 of our year. So we're under budget. We might want to talk about any needs PAC might foresee to spend some money on. Okay, my other function is the Finance Committee, where I comment on our financials. Usually it's just my comments on the DSCR, which is the debt service something ratio, I forget.
Coverage.
Debt service
Coverage.
coverage ratio. Thank you, Carol Joy. Our DSCR for the month of March is 1.96. The bank wants it to be 2.0 or higher. And as I've said before, it's lower because Matt spent heavily on brush clearing and tree trimming in the early part of the year. If we average those expenses out like a budget would, we would be at 2.10 right now. And as we approach the end of the year, it'll come up a bit, so we'll be fine. One last comment. You may have been hearing over the last couple of meetings that the city will very likely pay off our mortgage. If that happens, this whole issue of the DSCR goes away. It is solely for the purpose of the bank loan. The bank needs to see our profit level being a certain amount so that they're comfortable about us having borrowed all that money. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Carol Joy.
I have a question. You mentioned that the PAC budget line item has some money left over. That's nice to hear that we're doing so well. Would that balance roll over to the next fiscal year or not? Is it like the military where you better spend it?
Like any government, use it or lose it.
Okay,
Now,
well
in our
then,
case, actually, it's a little bit different because whatever excess we have, not just our line item, but as a whole, goes into the reserves. So
oh,
any money not spent does get saved.
oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just redistributed. There is one thing that we often will spend more on, and that's the election. And it depends on what the election, what
That's
happens
true.
this year. Yeah, if it's going to be a white ballot, it's usually less expensive.
So we can have donuts at the annual meeting.
Uh,
Or leftover pizza, it's up to you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions or comments about Steve's reporting? Thank you, Steve. Moving on. 2x2 meetings.
Excuse me, are you going to go to the public on this? Or is
Yeah,
it my
sure.
turn?
Yes, go right
Okay,
ahead.
I want to make a comment in regards to Steve's reporting on a regular basis. Thank you very much for your expertise in breaking it down, parsing it for us. You're a very valuable entity and much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to 2x2 meetings. Again, these are regular meetings scheduled on a quarterly basis between the City of Novato staff and the PAC board, where we have an opportunity to discuss, not off the record per se, but an open discussion on our needs and what the city is able to provide for us. So if you have any suggestions regarding questions that could be brought forward to the city, please contact Carol Joy or myself. At the next meeting, there are a number of issues that will be discussed, and before that meeting, we will post what issues, general issues that we'll be talking to them about. Carol, do you have any Carol Joy, do you have any new ones that are going on?
No, I haven't been contacted by anyone. Of course, people are always concerned about the rules, as evidenced by Ellen Jane's comments a little earlier. And that is something that we are pushing for every single time. Get us those rules, get us those rules. So we're doing as much as we can. Our job at this point is just to nag.
Well, it's also to discuss, and part of what we're going to be talking about is budgeting for the defensive space around our homes and around the park, to make them aware of the fact that we have to be careful of the impending fire danger that is getting more and more of an issue. We are going to be able to talk with them about our interest in solar and getting them prepared to think more concretely about how they can help us out in either putting solar on the roof or in some other area of the park to lessen our dependence on PG&E. And we've got to make them aware of the fact that the infrastructure work that needs to be done should be done in a timely fashion. And we work very closely with Matt to address those issues and to bring them before the staff, who then relays that to the city council when it's appropriate. So we're working on all that at these 2x2 meetings. And the next one is coming up on a quarterly basis, and we'll be presenting these issues as we continue to do. Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll move on.
Ellen
Oh,
Jane has her hand up.
Yeah.
Hi,
Ellen
Alan.
Jane.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, speaking again about fire danger to homes rather than the perimeter clearing, I have a clear and present danger is what I'd call it to my home from the property down below. And I again brought it up with Matt, since now the home is empty and it's on the market. There may have been it may be an escrow. I'm not sure. Actually, I didn't see that on the sign. Somebody said it was, but I brought it up with Matt again, and he said, well, that's a feature of that property as far as privacy, because all these weeds and trees are up against my home. And Matt again said, it's a feature of privacy for her, and ignoring that these are acacias that I can't get any, they're banned in San Rafael, San Anselmo, Sausalito, Mill Valley. But here it's just, well, that's on her side of the fence, which I helped put up when the other lady lived there, because she had to take down a lot of stuff. And this lady was really nice that used to live there, but she planted things like French broom all over the place because you could buy it in the nursery. So I'm always pulling that stuff out. But this is a real concern for me, that it does, the wind blows and that stuff blows up against my house, the acacias, and nothing to be done. And when they came for inspections, they said, we can't say anything about the adjoining property. So I'll just keep harping on it.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay, let's move on to
Yeah. Thanks for your
project.
support.
Moving on to project planning, John Hanson and myself. John, do you want to have a comment?
Well, yeah, just in, from what you had mentioned before from Matt's email, yeah, we're looking at the roof, and Matt is getting bids on re-roofing, and with various caveats on there for we've talked about different approaches to the air conditioning, the air moving system, the heaters, solar, all these things have an impact on the roof. So we're trying to sort all of these things out and get them together so that we can get going on the re-roofing project. as you mentioned with the trees, trees down and the down and dead, fuel that's in the shaded fuel break area surrounding the park. That's going to be one project coming up. There's also a hand crew with weed whackers for another project to do some fine cleaning work around the homes after the goats are in. We still don't know yet about the other goats coming in later on. But they usually contact us about a week or so before they're ready to move. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what's aboard at that time. And then there will be other regular tree work from Marin Tree that will come in, and they're much more, they do really elegant work, I would say, on the trees inside the park. So it's really two tree organizations, tree management groups that will be coming in. So there's a lot of fire mitigation work yet ahead, and we're trying to get that together. And as Jay mentioned before, with the solar, then that not only interfaces a clubhouse, but also the main switch when we're coming in the park. Putting in that switch where it needs to be moved from where it is. And then also the maintenance work on all the other switches that are in the park. There was an assessment phase, and that is completed. The status is that all of the switches are really in pretty bad shape. We've been fortunate not to have fires and other issues with those switches because they're so dirty and full of cobwebs that they're kind of full of fried spiders and lizards and other things, that they get instantly nuked when there's a short. And then there's also dust and salt and things that builds up in there. So anyway, it's quite a mess. That is going to be going on. The bid is in for that. So we'll get those switches all cleaned up before there's an issue. It's either $50,000 now to clean the switches, or it's $100,000 later for the work that needs to be done, plus another $100,000 for a generator to come in. So the city has wisely decided that, okay, let's do the cleaning. Let's see.
Well, cleaning and also maintenance, John.
The cleaning and maintenance, exactly. And with that, there will be a guarantee for 2 years on the system. And Matt said that probably means more like 5-year life cycle on the maintenance cycle. So anyway, all of that is, to me, it's all very positive. And that with the resurfacing work on, some of the Marin Valley Drive coming up the hill into the park, it's pretty bumpy spots in there. And so that is going to be cleaned up pretty soon too and resurfaced.
One of the things that also came up, and that is that as a agency or an enterprise of the city of Novato, we're required to meet certain ADA requirements, and we're very knowledgeable over the years of what these requirements are, and we've been working piecemeal on them. And Matt suggested, and we concurred, that we have to bring it up in front of the 2x2 meeting to see if we can get a more concrete plan to assure us that the work will be done in a timely fashion, and also to absolve us of any litigation that may come down from people complaining about us not doing the ADA work and being a public facility. So we've got to, although we've been on it, we've got to be on it a little bit more, and we're going to bring that issue up to the 2x2 and the city staff when we meet with them. That's, I think, covers what we discussed with Matt today in our assessment of what needs to be done. Is there any comment about that? one second, Anila, just to see if anyone from the board has anything to query us on.
I have a question.
Sure.
When the resurfacing is done, would it be good at that time to have the repainting done of all the places where it says stop and it's completely faded, and people can use that as an excuse of, well, not that people need excuses, but what could that be done at the same time, do you think, by Public Works?
Well, it's the contract for the resurfacing is done by a contractor who does asphalt work.
Right.
Repainting would be something that Public Works might be involved with, or Marin Valley Mobile Country Club might be involved in doing that, having it done by an outside contractor. But that's a good point. We should mention that to Matt the next time we get a chance to.
And also, as Carol, as Ellen Jane mentioned, bringing some of the stop signs out of the bushes.
Right, and there are a couple of places I was reminded the other day where there is no stop sign. It says
Right.
stop on the street, or used to say stop on the street, but there's no sign. So that all, I think, could be of a piece, like after the resurfacing is done, okay, now it's time to do the painting and get the signs up.
Good point. Any other comment from the board? Otherwise, we'll go to Anila.
I remember a few years ago, we were talking about ADA improvements, and there was some talk of an elevator that would cost $100,000 that would go from level 1 to level 2 of the clubhouse. Is that on your agenda to look at again?
Yes.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we want to avoid a lawsuit, which would cost a lot more.
Good point.
Yeah.
But now that it's been so many years since it was costed out, then maybe
We've been
better
lucky.
off.
Anila, the point is that we're looking at it, and we've planned for it, and we actually have funds budgeted for it. That's very helpful in a defense in a lawsuit, a frivolous lawsuit, which could come out of it. Fortunately, we're not really under the radar of people who normally make those kinds of lawsuits, basically for their own benefit rather than for the benefit of the residents. But that's one of the reasons why John Hanson and I and Matt want to get a ADA plan more ironed out, so that we do have that defense of having an ADA plan working.
There are lawyers who make a living going around the state looking for situations like us, to then find a plaintiff and bring a suit so that they make a lot of attorney fees.
Or I actually, as a court reporter, was in some of those cases in court, and they don't have to find a plaintiff. They can do it themselves. They can come here, they can know about, hear about Marin Valley, come here and say, oh, I couldn't get downstairs, and boom, there's the lawsuit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's not publicize that too much.
Should I stop recording?
Vicky,
When is it on the agenda?
it's on the agenda for the next 2x2.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The problem is that I'm sorry, may I?
Yes, you may.
We have been discussing ADA for years, and what happens is every year it gets pushed aside and there's no definitive plan. So I think the idea is to have a definitive plan, even if it's years out, then you can say, here's our plan.
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
My hand is raised, Jay.
Oh, I didn't see it. Go ahead. Yes,
Yeah,
Ellen.
to follow up with what John said about the street signs and the stop signs. And I'm also referring to the like scenic drive and Meadowview. Coming into the park, you can't see them. They're obscured. Coming out of the park, you can see them. But and I've mentioned it to, hi, Mark. I've mentioned it to Mark and Greg in the past, but I think they need a work order to do it or something. Just to shave off, so you could read the street signs, because that's in an emergency. Not every safety person might know the names of the streets. And that'd be another good thing to have done. Thanks.
All right. Let's move on to Invest. John Hanson again.
Okay, well, Invest, as usual, we've been quite busy, and I can say that every single month because we are. We still meet every Monday at 5 o'clock, and we have committees that are meeting at other times during the week as well. Some of the things we're doing right now on the front burner, of course, is our evacuation exercise coming up on June 4. And we're putting this on as an opportunity for residents to do a dress rehearsal. I had 3 months worth of articles in the Echo explaining the different aspects of evacuation. And we'll probably have another short one too on the I don't know what we're going to call it. I think of it as a Zen bug out of how we carefully and cautiously leave the park even under dire circumstances of a real evacuation. So we have an opportunity for a dress rehearsal, and that's what we're doing. Then we're following that up immediately with a pizza party at the clubhouse. So residents that participate in the evacuation exercise go up the hill, down the other side to the turnaround, grab a meal ticket, and come back to the pizza party. And then following the pizza party, then will be the PAC annual meeting. That's one thing we're doing. We're also working on, Kevin Mulvaney is still doing his monthly cruise around the park and around the hills, or all around the park, and looking for illegal campers and other things that may pose a threat to us and to our neighboring communities as well. We are also working with Fire Safe Marin, and we're participating in a program coming up. It's called Emperor Stomp, and it's an event that will be presented at the Civic Center, and that will be on May 28th from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. And it's a family-oriented event. It's a fun entertainment event, and as well as an infotainment event. So I think it's well worth for people to go there. And so we are participating in helping to put that on with the Fire Safe Marin. Also with Fire Safe Marin, we have just completed a segment that's on their website now. It's called Mobile Home Wildfire Safety, and we're just finished the text for a brochure that is now off for onto the design phase. This brochure, when it's finished, it will be available on the front counter. I suspect that's going to be 2 or 3 weeks from now, by the time it's printed and distributed. But it's a quick read, very informative on wildfire safety, as well as fire safety tips within the home. Let's see, we're also working with Matt to complete and maintain the park perimeter, and to expand that over the next few years. We're working with Nevada Fire District with that, and the NWPA, of course, supplies the funding. Let's see, and there are also in Invest, we just started I just started talking about the subject of taking our next steps in fire hardening our homes and doing our defensible space. So that program will be coming up, and we're going to be probably working with HOL, with fire district, with the city on all different aspects of how we can help to motivate the rest of our residents to, clear especially that first 5 feet, 5-foot perimeter around the home. Let's see, and then we're still working on our mobile home replacement cost assessment, which will include the costs that are that can be hugely amplified by a disaster. So those are things coming up, and those are the things that we're working on. And do I have any questions?
Okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you, John.
All right.
Okay, can we move on to HOL and John Feld? Irma, is John Feld around?
They may have stepped away.
Yeah. All right, if they come back, oh, there's Irma. Irma, is John Feld available?
John is out of town.
Oh, okay.
So
Would you like to have something to say about HOL?
yes, the Breezeway Market is going to be changed from Sunday to Saturday. So this coming Saturday will be the Breezeway Market. And followed by Steve Ploker's Drum Circle. And so okay. And should I go through everything that's happening?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So, and this Thursday, the inner archetype is happening. It's a friend of the park is offering her services and expertise on your inner tarot, your inner architect archetype. And then there's going to be an installation of a new gallery on May 15th. So everyone who wants to participate should let Susie Lar know, or at least bring it on that day from 10 to 12. The Night Jet Mystery Theater deadline is the 18th. And on the 22nd will be the world premiere from 7 to 9 p.m. Don't miss it. There's a lot of residents who've been practicing for weeks and months on this, and it should be enlightening. And the Circle of Friends is meeting on the 24th, and Bark in the Park will be on the 28th. Just before everyone leaves here to go to Ember Stomp at the Civic Center. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on something to John, or I could pass it on to you tomorrow. And it is an email that I got from Eric Lucan, who is on the City Council of Novato and is currently running for supervisor of the county. And he sent an email in which he received from the president of the California Alliance for Retired Americans. And they were proposing to present a fraud seminar here at MVMCC for fraud that are perpetrated against senior citizens. And if HOL wanted to follow up on this, it would give another opportunity for our residents to see what kind of shenanigans are perpetrated against senior citizens. So I thank Eric for thinking about us and mentioning the president of CAR, which is again the California Alliance of Retired Americans, to do this for our public service. So I'll bring that over and give it to you and John tomorrow.
We
Any
had
other comments from HOL?
We had something like that last year.
Right,
I think.
and that was by the county. That was, I believe, the district attorney had something for us.
Yeah.
So the more the merrier, because we are a target group for sure. Okay, moving on to the PAC board election. Steve, is there an update?
What Marvell?
Oh, Marvell, yeah, absolutely. Is there anyone from Marvell today?
No, but I'm here to report
Go
on
ahead,
behalf
Vicki.
of Kathleen.
Go ahead.
Okay to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, I received an email from Kathleen Dargy. Cinco de Mayo will be celebrated this Friday, May 6th, with a Mexican meal. Reservations are required for those who wish to have dinner. Memorial Day celebration takes place on Monday, May 30th. Now I'd like to ad lib a little bit. This is for those newcomers to our park. This is a very popular event, and it's popular for one reason, because it's probably the first event we have outdoors, weather permitting. So please do get your reservation in very early. And that's the report.
Good, thank you. Now we can return to Steve on the report on the PAC board election that's coming up.
We have the election schedule in the May Echo. It's on page 2. The nominations are open between the period of May 8th and May 14th, if someone wishes to run for the PAC board. 3 seats are up for re-election, and all 3 candidates are running for re-election. If no one else decides to run, then there will not be an election, because those 3 candidates win on what we call a white ballot. But should someone else decide to run, and we have 4 candidates, then we will have an election. I have an election committee chairman. That will be Timo Nevsky, and she is on board to perform that function. And she will be contacting all of the election committee members. Remember, a couple of years ago, after the last election, we made the election committee a standing committee. And I actually contacted them a couple of months ago just to an early check, and most of them are still on board. So Timo and I are beginning planning. I've spoken with Matt. He's going to help us a lot to make things easier. So Timo and I will be meeting with Matt later this week or early next week. So even though there's a possibility that there won't be election, we have to plan for an election, because to wait until such time as we find out, it would be too tight a squeeze. So we need to be prepared all the way along. So we're on our game.
Thank you, Steve.
I have a question.
Go.
Those 3 of us who are up for re-election, I'm going to be gone a bit in May. So is there something that that we need to do? What I know, if there are,
Will you be here still on the 14th?
yes.
By then, we will know if there are any additional candidates.
And so if there
There
are
are
not,
none, we don't have to do anything.
oh, okay, just nothing, just say,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
If
Okay.
there is an additional candidate, then we will have an election, and I'll need a blurb from you about yourself.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Moving on, we have no old business, we have no new business, and we can move on to the determination of the next PAC board meeting. Now, we have changed the annual meeting to 12:30, and the question I have is, will we have our normal monthly PAC board meeting on the following Tuesday, Or are we actually going to have a meeting during that annual meeting, which seems a little much? Any comments? John Hanson?
Yes, the only thing about the annual meeting, of course, there's never a quorum present on that meeting because with that meeting, it's a meeting of all the residents. And so it's not so much a PAC board meeting as it is a meeting of MVMCC residents. And there needs to be a quorum present, and there never is. So I don't know if that means anything one direction or the other, but just to, PAC always puts on the meeting and a few residents show up. So with that, I don't know, maybe we could preempt the meeting and put it on to Tuesday. The thing is, I think the annual meeting is in the bylaws.
Yes.
For the first Saturday in June. So I'm not sure how we can bypass that and stay within the bylaws.
We have to have an annual meeting.
Yes,
We have to.
that's right.
I'm looking at what happened in 2021.
Mhm.
We had a regular meeting on Tuesday, June 1st. And then we had the annual meeting on Saturday, June 5th. So 4 days later, and that was by Zoom.
Mhm.
And we just, there were only 3 other Marin Valley residents present besides the board. And we conducted our regular business. We had reports, old business, new business. So it was conducted as we do a regular meeting.
So I think we should have a regular meeting on June the 7th then. Board meeting.
Yes.
So can the annual meeting be abbreviated in any way?
Well, I remember way back a long time ago when the annual meeting was there, 30 people would show up, or 40 people or whatever,
Mhm.
in the fireside room. And there was one item of business, and that was introducing and seating the new members. And then we had our regular June meeting at some other time, either just before or just after.
That's right.
That was going to be my question. What
So
about the election results?
We could do that. We could seat the new board, which might be the old board, on Saturday, June 4th, and then keep our regular scheduled meeting. For one thing, there are people who watch it on cable channel 26. Hello out there, whoever's watching right now. And they would not be able to watch it on Saturday and would want to come to the meeting the following Tuesday. So there's that.
I believe
John
one
Hanson.
more thing that we often did on the annual meeting was to appoint officers.
Oh, that's correct.
Have our little officer election.
Or elect, what we do is elect officers,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah, we do a little thing with paper and.
right.
Yeah.
So, okay. We changed the agenda to have the annual meeting on Saturday, June 4th at 12:30. I would propose, or maybe I should make it as a motion. I move that we have that meeting Saturday, June 4th at 12:30 as our annual meeting, and just have that one item of business, that the new seating the new board and immediately thereafter electing officers.
2 items.
Pardon me?
That's 2 items.
Okay, 2 items. And then having our regular meeting the following Tuesday. That's my motion.
John? Hanson?
Yes, as I recall too, the agenda would be approval of the final agenda, where we would start, and then we would follow that with public comment. We would follow that with consent calendar, exactly where you have it for this agenda. And then the report would be the results of the election. And
Maybe I should second the motion first. You're doing discussion.
Okay, let me withdraw the motion and restate it as, because I said it incorrectly, that there would be that one item of business. It would be an abbreviated meeting without all the usual reports. And the main purpose of it would be to seat the new board and elect officers. And then to keep our regular meeting the following Tuesday so that it could be broadcast and done as this one is. So that's my motion.
A second.
Any further comment from the board? Anila?
This seems to be a great opportunity for people to find out exactly what the PAC board is. Put a flyer in every tube saying, what is the PAC? You were wondering, come see now. And have each of the people say, here's what I've done the past year. Here's the scope of my job. And here's what I did the past year, kind of thing. This is assuming there's no election, in which case this will all come out in the wash. But it occurred to me, there's a lot of folks here who came in during the pandemic and don't really have any idea of what goes on here. And this is your bully public.
Yeah. John Hanson?
yeah, well, that's one way to do it. The other is, with the little blurb that Steve mentioned, if it's not a white ballot. If it's not a white ballot, then I think that would kind of preempt the presentation, at the meeting.
Also, the Echo does have the president's report in it every month,
Yes.
which basically says what
That's true.
PAC is doing. I
And
mean,
the job
it's-
descriptions.
And for the
But
last
it
5 or
is
6 months, we've been introducing ourselves every meeting. And what we
Yes,
do.
yes.
That's true. Okay.
We didn't used to do that.
So that motion was seconded.
That's right.
Any further discussion? Call for a vote? All in favor? So we're going to have the annual meeting on Saturday and the following Tuesday, the regular PAC board meeting. And the time is 6:57. And I thank all the viewers from Channel 26, and I'll see you around the campus.
Thank you,
meeting.
everybody.
Thank you.